Hi, Louisa.
Hi, Marci. Thank you so much for this interview.
You're
Lovely to talk
welcome.
to you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Well, I'm so interested in the work that you do, and I saw some previous interviews and articles in which you said that consent is the cornerstone of your business and that you're always searching for enthusiastic consent. So I'd like to know, what is enthusiastic consent and how do you build your work around that?
After I talked to the filmmaker about what they're looking for in the scene, which includes what we will be seeing in terms of nudity, what the simulated sex act is that they want to show, and what the tone of the piece is, I then go and speak with the actor in a private one-on-one to make sure that they're not being pressured or coerced into doing this scene. And so if I ask an actor something like, well, are you okay with him biting your nipple? And then the actor goes, um, yeah, oh, okay, I guess so. Yeah. That's not enthusiastic consent. That's someone, I'm going to take that as a no.
Right.
And actors have a hard time saying no. And they don't realize how their no is so powerful. And so an example of enthusiastic consent is when I ask that, they're like, yeah, I'm fine. That's great. I totally get it. I trust him. He trusts me. Yeah, I mean, I can just tell by, I do this on Zoom or I do it in person so that I can see their face to make sure that this is true, what's coming from them.
But one thing that we also heard many stories of before there were intimacy coordinators is that some things will be agreed upon, but then when it's time to film, something happens. So the actress feels pressure to do something that she didn't know about, or she's kept in the dark about something that's happening in the scene while the director and the male actor know. Have you ever experienced that? And if you did, like, how would you act in a situation like that?
Well, those were the old days,
Yeah.
which were before 2017. And that can't happen anymore because I'll give you some examples. Everything we do is in prep, meaning we have all these discussions beforehand. And then the intimacy coordinator committee worked with SAG-AFTRA, which is our acting union,
Mhm.
to form a clause within their contract that we have to give the nudity writer to their representative at least 48 hours ahead of shooting the scene. And the nudity writer is part of their contract that explains in very specific terms all of the nudity that we will see. Like it might say something like, we'll see side breast, but no nipple. Like it's very, very specific. And so we give that to the actor and their representatives 48 hours ahead of shooting day. And on the shooting day, we can't change any of that. That's the new part of the contract, so that they can't be taken advantage of. And also I'm there to make sure that they're not. And so if the production wants to change anything in the scene, it's going to set the clock back another 48 hours. And so nobody wants to do that.
And you mentioned how 2017 was sort of the year where this change began after the Harvey Weinstein scandal. And now that a few years have passed, what would you say is the feeling of the industry towards intimacy coordinators? Do you feel that you are perceived as a collaborator in the creative process, or is there a bit of resistance, like you're there on the opposite, to sort of limit creation, to be the police of, of the set? How do you feel? I'm sure it's very varied, but how is the feeling right now in general?
Well, you're absolutely right. Some productions see me as the sex police,
Mhm.
or that I'm HR, human resources, like a place where people come to complain. It that just goes to show they don't really understand what this job is. But because this is a newish position, a lot of my job is education, in terms of educating the filmmakers and the crew. I mean, the crew is always coming up to me asking me, what is this job? Because it is new and it is kind of fascinating. And so part of my job is to explain how we can work and how we can collaborate. And there are some directors out there that that feel that I am infringing on their job. And it's really my job to explain to them how I'm not, that I work with them and collaborate with them just like any other department head, just like the production designer, just like the sound person. You hire someone whose specialty is this, and then you let them do their work, or you work together. But yeah, there still is a lot of misunderstanding on what this position is. But all of us are trained to educate people.
Day or night, here I come. You can't hide.
Who's the head bitch in charge? Me.
You got balls, girl.
Here I come.
You need to watch your back with those two. They're straight up vipers.
Day or night.
You gonna see Raphael while you're here?
I wasn't planning on it.
It's good to see you, Flacca.
Day or night, here I come.
I'm the cop, Bray. I got the badge. What do you got?
Day or night, here I come. You can't hide.
Just do what I gotta do! Why do you have to be the one to go after it?
You can't hide.
I don't know. I just do.
Going into Hightown now, the show did not have, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure the show did not have an intimacy coordinator on season 1, which
That's correct.
also had sexual content. So why did they bring you in for season 2?
I'm not exactly sure, but I think, when they did the show, it was in maybe it was really the early days of this new position being formed. And when they went back to season 2, intimacy coordinators were very much part of the production process. And so the network suggested having an intimacy coordinator, and the filmmakers agreed and brought me in.
And how is the reaction of the actors? Were they very...
Well, it was different. I mean, there were some that thought, well, why are you here? What did we do wrong? I mean, I thought they did a great job at those scenes in the first season. I think all of them look very convincing and very real. Some people were incredibly grateful that I was there because they knew that I had their back. And generally, it was a big welcome for me, actually, from the filmmakers and from the actors.
And the second season was filmed during the pandemic. And I was curious if COVID had an effect on your work in the show, but also for intimacy coordinators in general.
Absolutely. There were a small group of us that were working during COVID as production started gearing up. I don't think we could have done this show if it were the first season during COVID, because when we came back second season, the actors trusted each other. They already had this built-in trust with each other, meaning they trusted that their scene partner wouldn't be going out on the weekends. And because we were in a small town that had a very high infection rate, and the restaurants and the bars were still open. And so they had to know that their partner was going to behave on the weekend when we were off the set. And that trust, I don't think that trust could have happened in the first season. So in terms of working during that, just like everyone else, we were masked and face shield 24/7, because the actors are the most vulnerable because they have no mask on when they're performing. And so they separate the crew into different zones. Those that are near the actors are in zone A. Those that are slightly further away are going to be zone B and zone C. And they kept us pretty much separate. It was a challenge, but everyone behaved and everyone did it. We had a tremendous COVID team that kept us healthy and safe.
But so not so much a change in what kind of things you would do.
We did not change them. I know many productions completely rewrote many scenes, and Rebecca Cutter, our creator and writer, producer, she did not pull any punches. She did not change anything. And as you saw, there was a lot of intimacy.
Yeah. And a lot of the simulated sex scenes in Hightown are between two women. And I was wondering does that change anything in the work that you do?
No, it honestly really didn't. If it was something that was more specialty, like a BDSM type of scene, I would be doing a lot of research before I went into a scene like this. But it didn't really change anything for me.
Yeah. The reason I asked that is because I noticed in your training, there was your training touched on topics such as fighting racism and being an ally to LGBTQ community. And the protagonist of the show is a lesbian, a woman of color. So I was just wondering, why is it important to have that kind of training when you're an intimacy coordinator?
It's important to understand their world. If I used to be a casting director, and if I was casting something where I needed a transsexual woman, I have to really do research and understand their world. I mean, I have many trans friends, and so I certainly have a leg up on it, but I would need to immerse myself in that world. And so that's what I do when I'm being an IC. And I'm also there to support those people on the set. For instance, I heard of this story of a costume supervisor that refused to call a trans woman a woman on set. And that's very disrespectful, and it makes it hard for that performer to do their work, to do their best work. And so I'm there to give that education to that crew member.
And just as a last question, after the tragic shooting at the set of Rust, there's been a lot of conversation about the importance of hiring experienced and trained crew members. And of course, in that case, was about armorers. But I wanted to know what kind of problems can occur? What is the risk of having an improperly trained intimacy coordinator on the set? Because it's a new profession. Maybe someone can say, I'll do it. What is the risk of that?
There are a lot of people out there in the world that want to do this job, and they're kind of waving a wand over their head saying, now I'm an intimacy coordinator, and they don't have the proper training. And it's first of all dangerous to our community of intimacy coordinators, because they're not going to go about the job in the correct way because they don't have the training. And so it's going to give us all a bad name, and it's going to make producers not want to hire us because the IC that came in there upset the set. There are proper protocols that you need to learn. There's a very robust training and reading list. I was trained for over 6 months. There's a lot that goes into this. And if you don't know all of these things, you're going to go in there and make a mess, and you can cause psychological damage to the actors if you're not treating them correctly.